Do you believe that the separation of church and state is still important today, and why? It is even more important today. People should have the right to live, and worship, as they choose without having another's beliefs and religious morals crammed down their throats. Do we really want to create a mega version of Iran, albeit a Christian one, complete with public morals police? Maybe that's an extreme example, but sadly, nothing really surprises me anymore. Look at what a paradise the Middle East region is to see what happens when you blur the lines between church and state. It's beyond important. The fact that it's still a question makes me suspicious of the concept of states in the first place. Any government that doesn't work for the people and all the people isn't a valid one to me. Religion is between you and your God, not you and literally anyone else. And the whole argument that well you need morals, belies the terrifying reality that a lot of religious people can't imagine doing the right thing without the threat of eternal damnation. It's more important now than it ever has been. The far-right Christian extremists are trying to force their views on people through politics. Their only logic for their anti-LGBT and pro-life stances are from the Bible. Congress shall pass no law respecting an establishment of religion, or prevent the free speech thereof. A bunch of religious dudes put that in the fucking Bill of Rights because they knew how dangerous a nation run by religious fanatics was. It's exceptionally important. The government is a secular institution by design. You can't have freedom of religion if a particular religion makes rules based on their belief system and oppresses other viewpoints with those rules. Also, any jackass that says the US is a Christian nation is decidedly uninformed about the founders' viewpoints. There is a host of historical commentary and documents that show the founders' desire to firm separation of church and state. I hadn't thought of this until the Church of Satan Today after school club and people freaked out, but at the same time I was wondering how they were okay with Christian after school clubs. Not saying it's wrong. I actually think after school religious clubs are good because you get to learn about religion without going to a service and feeling out of place. But it was kinda nutty that the Christians were mad about it and failed to see the hypocrisy. The fact that religions still have dedicated buildings and resources allocated for people to worship their delusions is beyond me. On the other hand, it's almost impossible to eradicate all religions, even by use of force, which was attempted countless times through history and wasn't very fruitful. People will always come up with some new hot farce and call it religion and start enforcing it over our heads and hamper human progress as a result. It's important because me, and millions of other citizens like myself, don't give two shits what ancient, Bronze Age texts have to say about anything. If someone wants to devote their life to old beliefs or at least pretend to, then be my guest, but don't expect the rest of us to care one whit. I was not put on this world to contribute to, support, nor submit to the outdated, irrelevant tenets of a dying cult. It's always been important and it always will be. The separation protects both religion from government control, what PPL are allowed to believe, in the government from religious zealots gaining power others. If a secular rationale can be constructed from a religious basis, then it has a chance of becoming public policy, but that effort needs to be made in the public good. All the public must win out. When religion and politics travel in the same cart, the riders believe nothing can stand in their way. Their movements become headlong faster and faster and faster. They put aside all thoughts of obstacles and forget the precipice does not show itself to the man in a blind rush until it's too late. Frank Herbert, Dune. Absolutely yes. I don't want to see the horrors of giving religious zealots political and military power as was in the past. These people can't even provide solid evidence of what they believe in. Do you think any good governance criteria would be kept? We exploded the budget, but it's the will of God for the greater good. Yes, yes and yes. Why? Because it's the belief in a deity. It has no place in law and order. The Bible isn't written by first-person accounts, which makes it very suspect for me. But just like government, they are both a form of control. They both commit war in the name of each other. So they have that in common. It's important, but effectively doesn't exist in the current implementation. Most of Congress and government officials are outspoken religious nuts that want to force their views on the rest of us. If you look at our laws, you can clearly see that America, for the most part, is run by Bible thumpers. Absolutely imperative that we keep the separation of church and state. I don't want to live in a Christian theocracy. The founders of the US left England due to religious persecution. I don't believe in God, and I don't need politicians trying to ram their beliefs down my throat. Anyone who says it isn't should revisit how they might feel if it was any other religion than theirs controlling the government. You think the government should consider religion when making laws? How do you feel about facing Mecca to pray daily under penalty of law if you don't? Yes. The establishment and management of government civilization should be based on facts, not some faith-based cultish fiction. If believing in invisible sky wizards is your thing, great! But I don't want an accepted form of social insanity anywhere near the reins of power. Yes, for many reasons. To ensure religious freedom, to avoid government favoritism towards specific beliefs, and to promote an inclusive society where everyone's beliefs are respected. Separation also protects citizens' rights to practice their chosen religions or none at all, because doing things in the name of a god hasn't historically turned out so well. Putting that together with the government is not something that a majority would be interested in, given that the majority doesn't fall within the usual scope of what said religions stand for. Yes, your religion shouldn't get to dictate my decisions in foreign policy from our government. If your religion says you can do something, don't do it. Don't use your religion to tell me I can do something, especially when it has no bearing on you. It's more important now than ever in some respects. My mother always said, I bet all the people that don't believe in the separation of church and state would change their minds real quick if it was a cult that took over the government and not their church. It's more important now than ever with the extremist GOP wanting to meld religion and government together. Once they get Christian religious indoctrination into the classroom, they'll start coming after anyone who doesn't prescribe to their religious beliefs. Yes, it's urgent today because there are people that want to install LGBTQ rehabilitation centers in my country. The same people want to deny LGBTQ marriage and rights. They can ban queer people from their cults, but denying them rights is just atrocious. No, I have a religion that I want to impose on everyone else, and all these pesky laws and liberty just get in the way. It works out well for people I like, and anyone that doesn't like it is on the wrong side of my God and therefore evil. More important than ever, the fact you said church, and not mosque, or synagogue should illustrate the problem. Too many religions and divisions on what God really wants. Taking God out of the equation makes things easier. The amount of Pentecostal leaders are affiliated with, legislating in my country Brazil is scary. These people try at all costs to impose an extremely conservative and retrograde agenda. We don't need that for our future. Maybe if we had the Episcopal Church as the national religion all along, people would have figured out that it is all a scam like Western Europeans eventually did. We came so close to it that there is a national cathedral. Are you writing an essay for school and this is a prompt? Lamau, of course it is relevant today, and it will be relevant until the end of time. It's important today for the same reasons it was important in the 1700s. Yes, but I think we need to do a better job of teaching what that phrase means. All it means is institutional religion should not control governments. It does not mean the government is free of personal beliefs. You have got to be joking. The white Christian nationalists and their gun-running cabal that run this country have zero consideration of this ideal, and it has been the camouflage that keeps the lid on dissent. I do. It's one of the few principles keeping the West from becoming like the Middle East. We've all seen what the Taliban is capable of doing, and any religion will do the same if given enough power. It's more important now than it's ever been. All these crazed Christo-fascists trying to make America abide by their silly books. Full of hypocrisy and hate. There is no hate like Christian love. Why would it not be now? Why should I have to be a Hindu or Scientologist just because my government says so? This is implicit in my constitutional rights to free speech and therefore free thought. Can anyone explain how clergymen privileges are still a defense? It happened about a year ago. The Supreme Court in Arizona didn't want to persecute a pastor for a confessional regarding child SA. Absolutely. I don't want laws to be based upon lessons learned from fairy tales about a dude 2,000 years ago. The world is fundamentally different than that time, and our laws should reflect that. To quote Frank Herbert, when religion and politics ride in the same cart, the whirlwind follows. Religion should always stay the hell out of politics, or innocent people will suffer. Religion is based on faith in something we blindly have to trust. The government is pretty much the same thing. Trust us, you voted us, and same BS, different people saying gee it. More so than ever. Hypocrites pretending to know the will of their made-up sky ghosts to force their prejudices on others has never worked out well for the ones being subjugated. Important? It's fundamental. Without it you'd have the quickest descent into fascism. When fascism comes to America, it will be wrapped in the flag and carrying a cross. Absolutely more important than ever with Christo-fascists infiltrating our government and wannabe dictators using evangelicals for votes. American Taliban not welcome here. It's more important than ever, now that it's getting more encroached upon than ever. Seriously, we need to be vigilant to keep from slipping into Christian Sharia. It should be a lot more important than it is, but US is slowly turning into the exact place that people escaped from those hundreds of years ago. It's almost ironic. I don't think Christianity is a false religion. But they need to know their place, which is in the government. Forcing people to follow your religious rules is wrong, yes. Go and look at the Middle East if you want to learn more about the separation of church and state. Western countries have this installed for a reason. It's more important in the times of panic, where people lose their faith and react in the extremes. Where religious feelings get exploited by large groups. I do not want a theocracy as my government. People should be free to worship, or not, as they please. But don't try to force your religion on me, please. Do you want someone to say I belong to the Church of Power Purple, so you have to wear purple by law? Or insert other more insidious results as well? We already have religious influence in the government. Until lobbying money is legislated away, it will stay that way. The separation is a pipe dream, cause nobody cares about your made-up stories from 2 key years ago. Church doesn't belong near government any more than the Harry Potter book club does. Still, it's always been fundamentally important to civilized society. Anyone who thinks otherwise doesn't believe in democracy or human rights. Of course it is! Otherwise whatever fucktard cult is in power is free to force the rules of their religion on everybody and make it the law. Because religious extremists in control is even worse than corrupt politicians in control. Keep your personal imaginary friend to yourselves. If understand what it meant by the Founding Fathers' definitions and understandings, yes. If we go by the Supreme Court back in the 60s, no, yes. I've seen what happens in those Middle Eastern countries where religion is law and I really don't want my country to look like that.